ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रीहरिं परमानन्दम् उपदेष्टारमीश्वरं व्यापकं सर्वलोकानां कारणं तं नमाम्यहम्। Now we are in a long discussion on Jagan Mithyatvam. That is, Jagat, is it really there or not? Some philosophies say that Jagat is also real, Brahman is also real. So there are two realities, there are two parallel realities. That's what many of the philosophies talk about. But then the real core teaching of Vedanta is that there is nothing other than Brahman. There are no two things. There is only one thing. Ekameva Advitiya Brahma. There is one consciousness, one existence, which is the only thing that is there. There is nothing else. There is no other thing which is there. Then what about this second thing that we are experiencing so solidly? And that Vedanta uses a term for that called as mithya. Mithya means that which is neither there nor not there. It is as though there. It is an appearance, as though. And so many examples I have already given. It may look as if Bhagwan Shankaracharya is repeating mithyatvam. I have also been telling same thing again and again with different examples. This is only meant to make this idea very, very clear in our minds that we are not talking about a non existent world. Vedanta never says that the world is not existing. It only says, examine this world which you think exists really. What is the reality that you give to it? It is there for experience, for vyavahara, for transactions, but really it is not there. And that is the reason why it is very difficult for us to accept it, because it is something which we are solidly experiencing, at least in our waking state. That itself should tell us that one third of our day, what we are experiencing as the external jagat, we take it as reality. And unfortunately, see the plight of the human beings. The other jivas may not suffer samsara, but it's the jiva, it's the human jiva which suffers samsara. Maybe some other animals also, like dogs and all, who have a little, a better intellect, may be able to, perceive something other than what actually is. They may anticipate something, but generally, The samsara that we are experiencing in the form of sukha and dukkha, all the time changing. I don't know where and how the next moment is going to be. Everything seems to be so ephemeral, so much changing. I don't know what I will see tomorrow morning, whether what is there today exists tomorrow morning or not. What kind of an experience or what kind of a world I'll be experiencing tomorrow, I don't know. So there is so much of fear of old age, fear of disease, fear of death, so much of anxiety about the future, so much of guilt and regret about the past. All this belong to what? All this belong to the vyavahara or the transaction that has taken place in this life up till now and what is likely to come. Because I don't know what is likely to come. I have the fear of something which is likely to come in future which I don't know. Many people call it the fear of the unknown. Actually speaking, why should one fear the unknown? Because you really don't know what it is going to be. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be. So why should I fear it when I don't know what it is going to be? But I'm afraid of tomorrow. I'm afraid of 1 year after this. I'm afraid of whatever has happened in the past. All this, which is samsara, is nothing but the effect of mithya. Just see the wonder, the ashcharya that all of us, the entire jiva kingdom or the entire, jiva jati, especially the manushya jati, is suffering from an anxiety and fear of something which is really not there. The sukha and dukkha and all these emotional upheavals which we have is from a jagat which is an appearance. I don't get affected by what I saw in the dream, however bad it might have been. But I know that I laugh over it and I say, oh, it really is not going to affect me. But why can't I have the same attitude towards this world? Why is it that I take it so seriously and say that all my problems are because of the world outside? All my problems are because of the people outside, objects of the world, situations outside, political situations, whatever situation it may be. I find some reason or the other to bind myself with a mithya jagat and suffer the consequences. And that is what Vedanta wants to say, that when you know the reality of the jagat, that it is there, no doubt, but it really has no stuff in it. It is Vaithatyam of Jagat. There is one Upanishad called Mandukya Upanishad in which Bhagavan Gaudapada writes a Karika on the Mandukya Upanishad, and there is a full prakarana called Vaithatya Prakarana, where he very, very logically proves that the Jagrit Prapancha is as mithya as Swapna Prapancha. But the Jagrit Prapancha affects us so much. It affects us so much in so many ways. So it is absolutely necessary for us, Vedanta says, to know this so that we have the right attitude towards the Jagat outside. We respect it. We see it as the glory of Ishvara's creation. We enjoy whatever Ishvara's creation is, but at the same time, we understand that this creation of Ishvara, so called Jagat, is a mere manifestation and appearance, and it really cannot bind me, the Atma. Since I do not know I am the Atma Swarupa, since I identify myself with the body mind sense complex, that with which this body mind sense complex does all the transactions, this Jagat, I seriously take it as Satyam. And what here in Aparokshanubhuti, Bhagwan Shankaracharya is telling us is, look, that Jagat by which you're getting affected so much really does not exist in the absolute form or absolute truth. It's not the absolute truth. It's a temporary, experiential, ephemeral reality. What is there is only this consciousness, aham, atma, I, the experiencer consciousness of this Jagat. And that Brahman, which is that consciousness underlying everything else in this Jagat, that is the only reality. The second reality is not real reality. It is only an appearance, therefore, it is called as mithya. Jagan mithyatvam, Brahma satyam, Jagan mithya. Then what? Jivo brahmaiva naparaha. I, this individual jiva I think I am, is not different from that Brahman, which is the very content of this body, every other body, and the entire universe. Why am I stressing it so much at the introduction every time? It is only because it is necessary to have this idea very clearly that Vedanta doesn't dismiss the world. Vedanta only dismisses the satyatvam or the reality that we are giving to this world. That is what is to be known absolutely clearly. And with this knowledge, which is Atmajnanam, Jagat remains in its place. I remain in my place. I continue to do my roles, play my roles. I continue to do all the transactions that I was doing earlier. But I'm not affected by samsara caused by this Jagat because I have understood that it is not real. That's it. It is not the absolute reality. It's only an appearance. When I understand this very clearly, then there's no question of any samsara from the Jagat. And as I said, Bhagwan Shankaracharya, out of his compassion for us, gives plenty of examples to say that the only thing that is there is this consciousness, Brahman. That which we experience, the world of experience, the objects of experience, this whole universe is as good as not there. For that, we are seeing so many examples. And now we'll go to the 62nd verse, which also is going to give another example. He is very, very, Bhagwan is, taking examples from our real life, what we experience every day. From our daily life, he's taking examples to show us that Jagat is mithya. And all this time we saw in the last 3, 4 verses also, we saw the examples. So from here up till the 80th verse or something, that means another 20 verses we are going to find day to day examples, which will make it very clear to us that, oh, yes, really, this is not something that I should get affected by. So it is only for that reason so many examples are repeated. It may be some of the examples may seem as though they are repeated. So let us go to the 62nd verse where he says, Yathaiva shunye vetalo gandharvanam puram yatha yathakashe dvichandratvam tadvat satye jagat sthitihi. So sometimes he says, Yathaiva shunye vetalaha. Sometimes in the dark, when the moving shadows are there, when there is nothing also, we feel that there is a ghost there. Especially if we have seen a horror movie or something recently, or if we have heard some ghost stories or something. I mean, even afraid to get up in the night and go to the bathroom. I feel that some vetala or some ghost is waiting somewhere. And I see also some peculiar things. That is because, of the shadows, of partial light, whatever it is, but I perceive it as Vetala. So Yatha Shunye Vetalaha. Okay, Vetalaha means a ghost or an apparition, we call, a kind of an appearance of a peculiar kind of a thing which appears, in sometimes in space, in the darkness. Yathaiva shunye Vetala, Gandharvanam Puram Yatha. We have all experienced it in the evening sky when the sun is setting, when there are a lot of clouds. We see a lot of shapes in the clouds. And we as children also, made up so many stories about those, things in the clouds. And we feel as if we see a city there. We call it Gandharva Pattanam. Gandharva Pattanam means that which is seen as city in the skies, in the heavens. And we tell our stories. I say, look, there is a big house there is a palace there, a Raja is coming. And then another friend of mine says, no, 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 it is something else. It is like this. We play games explaining those shapes of the clouds, and we really see a Gandharva Pattanam. We see as if there is a city there. And actually, it is said that, these sailors who are sailing for a long time, for many, many weeks and months together, it's if they see like that. They have this illusion of a city in the sky when they're looking. There's only this water surface. So when they look at the horizon, I believe they see something like, really something like a skyline of the city. It seems they see like that. So Gandharvanam Puram Yatha. Gandharva Puram means Gandharva Pattanam, which we see in the skies because of the clouds. Yatha Akashe Dvichandratvam. Yatha Akashe Dvichandratvam. Sometimes we see two moons in the sky. That is because of our problem with our vision. I may be having a cataract, or I may be having some kind of a visual disorder where I see two moons, Dvichandram. But I know really there are no two moons, isn't it? I see multiple moons sometimes, reflected in water as it is flowing. In each wave, I see a moon. So, yatha akashe dvichandratvam tadvat satye jagat sthitihi. Like that. In this Satyam Atma, in this Satyam Brahma, this whole universe is like an appearance, like a Vetala in the night, like a Gandharva Pattanam of clouds which we see, or like two moons, Dvichandram, we see. Sometimes, when we have a eye problem and we see one light, it looks like as if there are two or three. Sometimes we see even multiple lights in one light, but then it is only an appearance. Really, it is not there. Tadvat, in the same way, the Jagat is only an appearance in Satya Atma or in Satyam. Then again, another example, another good example. Verse number 63. Yatha taranga kallolaihi jalameva spuratyalam पात्ररूपेण ताम्रं हि ब्रह्माण्डौघैस्तथात्मना आत्मता. So he says, Yatha Taranga Kallolaihi Jalameva. Taranga. Taranga means what? A small wave or a wavelet. In a wave. Kallolaha means a very, very large and a noisy wave. Yatha Taranga Kallolaihi. In a taranga also, in a small wave which is arising in the water also, Jalameva. Correct? There is Jalameva. There is nothing other than water. In a big wave, in a big giant sized wave, Kallola also, there is what? There is water only. There is nothing other than water. You take a wave in your hand, it's water. If you try to take from a bigger wave something, it is nothing but water only. So he says, Yatha taranga kallolaihi. Kallolaihi jalameva sphurati alam. Jalameva sphurati. Water alone is present in a wavelet, in a small wave, excuse me, in a big wave, in a bubble, in a in the foam, whatever is there, it is water only. Yatha taranga kallolaihi jalameva sphurati alam. Jalameva sphurati alam. Alam means definitely, no doubt. In all waves, it is only Jalam that is seen. Patra Rupena Tamram Hi. All patras means all vessels of tamra or copper, all copper vessels, there is only copper in it, nothing else. It may be a big vessel for cooking for weddings and other things. It may be a small glass, or it may be something very small. But all the patras or all the vessels made up of copper are nothing but copper only. Copper itself manifests in various shapes and sizes and forms with various utilities. Similarly, he says, Brahmanda Oghaihi Tatha Atmata. This whole Brahmanda is nothing but an appearance in Brahman. Like if you take a wave, small wave like this in your hand, you see nothing but water. Same thing with the big wave. If you touch a copper glass, also you're touching copper. If you touch a big bhanda or a big, vessel, cooking vessel of copper, also you're touching copper. Similarly, whatever you transact with in this jagat, whatever you touch in this jagat, whatever we see in this jagat is nothing but Brahman alone. Okay? But countless appearances are there. Ours is not the only universe. Okay? Brahmanda ogaihi tathatmata. Multiple universes are there. So many universes are there. So many realms are there. Ours is not the only universe. There are so many others. It is said that every minute the universe is expanding. What is expanding? Nama Rupa is expanding. New galaxies are coming, new universes are appearing, old universes they are resolving back, some of them new ones are coming. So it is in this Brahman only that there are millions of appearances, millions of Brahmandas, millions of universes are appearing. Ananta Koti, Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda. That is what we say that Bhagavan, Brahman is the Akhilanda Koti Nayaka. That means that Brahman in which Ishvara, in which millions of universes, Brahmandas, waves and waves of Brahmandas, different universes are appearing. We think our solar system is the only thing. How do we know how many solar systems like ours are there? Somewhere they must be there. There may be living forms in so many, you know, systems, the solar systems in this world, we don't know. So there are millions of Brahmandas, millions of universes. What we know is only one small portion. And all these are what? They are appearing in Brahman only. Just like water is appearing in everything that arises out of it, Brahman is manifesting in every manifestation. So everything that is there is nothing but this Brahman. Every experience is a Brahman experience with name and form. Every knowledge, what we know is Brahman, but with another manifestation. So it is only Brahman, but millions of names and forms manifestations. The underlying reality is one and the same. One and only Atman or Brahma. Atma and Brahman are taken to be one and the same. Sometimes the word Atma may be used, sometimes the word Brahma may be used, sometimes the word Ishvara may be used. All these actually mean the same. Then we'll go to the 64th verse. We'll see. घटनाम्ना यथा पृथिवी पटनाम्ना हि तन्तवः जगन्नाम्ना चिदा भाति ज्ञेयं तत्तदभावतः. So what he says is that Ghatanamna yatha Prithivi. It is the Prithivi, the earth or the mud, which appears in the name of a pot, in the name of a jug, in the name of a plate, in the name of anything. We go to a pot maker's place, we'll see so many names and forms. So, what is a pot? It is nothing but clay with a name and form. When I'm touching the pot, I'm touching the clay. I'm not touching the name and form, I'm touching the clay actually. When I'm touching a plate, when I'm carrying a plate, I'm carrying clay, I'm not carrying the name and form. The name and form is a mere name given to a particular form for the sake of transaction. So you can take it gold, this one, anything. But all the clay vessels, namna, ghata namna, yatha prithvi. In the name of the pot, whatever is there is only clay. Patanamna hi tantavaha. What do I mean by a cloth? A cloth is nothing but the tantus or the threads of this cloth, which are woven in the long and cross manner. Okay, otap protaha. So this fabric is otap protaha with tantus. That's the reality of this. What is this fabric? Name and form. But what is really it is made of? Tantus. The same tantu, same fabric can be there with another name, in another form, with another utility, it can be there. So, patanamna hi tantavaha. Pata or a cloth is nothing but the tantus. Then, Jagannamna chid abhati. Jagannamna chit abhati. This chit or this Atma Brahman Abhati shines, manifests in the name of Jagat. So, what is Jagat? Nama. This whole Jagat is Nama Rupa. Jagan Namna Chid Abhati Nyeyam Tattat Abhavataha. Okay? It should be known what? This Brahman should be known by understanding that the whole world is nothing but a name and form, it is not the reality, and by negating the appearance, by negating the names and forms, tat jneyaha, that should be known. What should be known? This Brahman should be known. By negating the name and form, intellectually, you can't negate the name and form physically. You can't separate Brahman from name and form physically. You cannot separate the clay from the pot, physically. You can't separate it and say, this is clay, this is pot. No. The clay, the pot is nothing, the clay is nothing but pot. Pot and clay are inseparable. Pot is a mere name given to the clay. Similarly, Jagat is a mere name given to that Brahman. And when I go beyond the name and form of the Jagat, what I see, what I perceive is the reality underlying this name, and that is nothing but Chid or Atma Abhati Jagannamna. Chityeva Atma eva Jagannamna Abhati. It is this consciousness, Brahman, Atma itself, which shines, which manifests in the form of this entire Jagat. Therefore, what I call as Jagat is nothing but Brahman with a name and form. What is Mithya here? The name and form is Mithya. When I say Jagan Mithya means the name and form is Mithya, the underlying adhishtanam or that which is pervading the entire name and form Jagat is the only Satyam. So remember very clearly, Jagan Mithya does not mean you are negating Brahman. You are negating only the name and form manifestation and seeing the content of that name and form and called Jagat is nothing but this Chit Rupa Atma. That is Chid Abhati Jagannamna, and that should be known Neyam Tat Tad Abhavataha by understanding that the name and form is not the reality. The very content alone is the reality of the world. What is the content of this entire Jagat? This is nothing but Brahman or Atma. Mayi eva idam sarvam protam, Lord Krishna said. In me, the consciousness only, this whole Jagat is woven. I am the whoop and woof of this whole Jagat. That's what Krishna said in the 7th chapter. So similarly here, it is said, Jagannamna chidabhati gneyam tattadabhavata. Let's go to the next verse, 65 verse. Sarvopi vyavaharastu brahmana kriyate janaihi ajnanatna vijananti mrideva hi ghatadikam. So, when I am touching a pot, I am touching clay. When I am touching Jagat, anything is Jagat, I am actually touching Brahman. Touching means that is the ultimate reality. So, whatever I am doing, it is nothing but this Brahman alone. This Ishvara, Brahman is as though walking, as though. But what is walking is the name and form body. So, Sarvopi Vyavaharatu Brahmana Kriyate Janaihi. So, what is it that is making us capable, all of us, Janahi, by people, whatever Vyavahara is done? Vyavahara Yogyata is lent by whom? It is this Atma, this consciousness, because of which this body mind sense complex is capable of Vyavahara. Is it directly or through Chidabhasa? It is through the Chidabhasa. This Atma getting reflected in the intellect or the antakaranam of the individual jiva is the one with in association with the body mind sense complex conducts all the vyavahara. And who is the sakshi of this vyavahara? Atma is the sakshi. That is why in Kenopanishad it is said shrotrasya shrotram. Atma is the ear of the ear, eye of the eye. It is because of me, the Atma, because of me, the consciousness, all these sense organs are functioning and capable of functioning. It is because of me, the consciousness, this whole Jagat becomes Vyavahara Yogya. It has got Vyavahara Kshamyata is there in that. That's what we saw in one of the previous verses. Ajnanat na vijananti. Ajnanat na vijananti. Because of ignorance, I do not know. That is why Arjuna said, I am killing Bhishma and Drona. They are getting killed by me. What did Krishna say? Ubhau tau na vijanita. Both of them do not know. The one who says that I am the killer, the one who thinks I am the killed, both of them do not know. Because Atma is neither the killer nor the killed. Atma is neither the karta nor the bhokta. What is it that is inflicting injury on somebody? It is the body, mind, sense complex, the individual jiva. What is getting killed is nothing but the body, mind, sense complex. Whereas the Atma, the real me, is always there. Okay, the name given to a particular body called Bhishma or Drona, the name given to this particular body called so and so XYZ, this body may disappear. But I, the consciousness, does not go anywhere. It is the very content, the sakshi of all the vyavaharas. So, ajnanatna vijananti, people, janaha, they do not know that it is ajnana. They, because of ajnana, they do not realize this na vijanante. Mridevahi ghataka ghatadikam. I do not know that mridyeva ghatadikam. Clay alone is ghata adi. I forget that. In my transaction with the pot and plate and this and that, I completely forget that what I am transacting all the time is clay only. Similarly, that which is the underlying reality of all my transactions is nothing but this Brahman. Now let us go to the 66th verse. कार्यकारणता नित्यम् आस्ते घटं मृदोर्यथा तथैव श्रुतियुक्तिभ्यां प्रपञ्च ब्रह्मणोरिह. Okay, so what is the relationship then between the clay and pot? You can take anything, gold and ornament, copper and vessel, water and wave, anything. But here, because Bhagwan Shankaracharya is talking about a ghata, he's talking about a clay, you know, an object made, a name and form made up of clay vessel. He's talking about. So I'm discussing from this angle. You can understand it from any other angle. The same thing, instead of mrit, we can say an ornament and gold. We can say suvarnaha and kundalaha, as we saw earlier. You can use any example for this. So what he says is, karya karanata nityam aste. Okay? Nityam aste. Karya karanata nityam aste. Ghata mridor yatha. The cause, effect, relationship is always there between clay and pot, isn't it? Between the clay and the clay pot, the cause effect is there. The effect is only the name and form, therefore mithya. What remains is only the cause. If you remember, we talked about it in Adhyaropa Apavada method of teaching of the Shruti in Viveka Chudamani. Let's not go into that now. Let's stick to what Bhagwan is trying to explain in a very simple way. He says, Karya Karanata Nityam Aste. The Karya Karanatvam, the relationship of the cause and effect between clay and the pot is always there. The Karya may disappear, the pot may disappear, but the clay is there. The ornament may be melted and converted into another ornament, but the gold is all the time there. Karanataya, the relationship with Karyam is inseparable. The name and form of the Karyam may change, but Karanam always persists. Similarly, the relationship between Brahman and this Jagat, if you call Brahman as Jagat Karanam Brahma, we say that, isn't it? Brahman is the Nimitta Upadana Karanam of this Jagat. The material cause and the intelligent cause of this Jagat we call. That's how Brahman is described. The Tathastha Lakshanam of Brahman. Tathastha Lakshanam means what? With reference to the Jagat, we say Brahman is Jagat Karanam. Jagat is the Karyam. Karanam satyam, karyam mithya. Karyam cannot exist without the Karanam. Karyam cannot be separated from the Karanam. But if we look beyond the Karyam, what we see is only the Karanam. So he says here, Tathaiva, in the same way, just like the connection between the clay and the clay pot is always there. It never disappears. The connection between the Atma and Anatma. Anatma may change constantly, but the connection between Atma and Anatma cannot be separated. Why? Because Anatma cannot exist without Atma. A pot or a plate or a jug cannot exist without clay. So he says, Tathaiva Shruti Yuktibhyam. Because by way of logic also, Yukti, and as told in the Shruti also, Prapancha Brahmanoho Iha. The connection between Brahman and Jagat is inseparable. The Jagat is not different. You can't separate the name and form from Brahman. We can only say that the name and form constantly being a changing thing, it is anityam, it is karyam, and therefore mithya. But anatma jagat, the name and form jagat, can never exist independently. Jagat, the name and form, has no independent existence of its own. It is constantly dependent upon Atman for its existence. Therefore, that which exists independently without the help of anything else is called as Satyam. Brahman can exist by itself without the world, therefore, Brahma Satyam. Jagat cannot exist without Brahman. It has no existence of its own. Therefore, that which does not have an existence of its own is called as Mithya. Therefore, Jagat, which is dependent upon Brahman for its existence, Jagat, which has no independent existence of its own, therefore it is called Mithya. Whereas Karanataya, or as the very content, this Brahman is Satyam because it has independent existence of its own. Clay can exist without pot, but pot cannot exist without clay. A gold ornament cannot exist, have independent existence without gold. But gold can exist by itself without depending upon the ornament. Therefore, we say that this Jagat is Mithya and the only Satyam is that Brahman which is independently existent and does not depend on anything else. Now let's go to the 67th verse. See the concepts. It's not a concept, the reality is brought so beautifully with these examples. All these examples is what we know, are what we know. These examples are what we have already studied. But the way the examples are put forth, that is, the beauty of Acharya's writing this. He did not have written 144 verses in Aparokshanubhuti with 20 odd verses giving examples. But how the examples are talking about a particular truth in such a beautiful way. This is what we have to appreciate in this. Then, next he says, Grihyamane ghate yadvan mrittika bhati vaibalat vikshямane prapanchepi brahmaiva bhati bhasuram. So, when I hold the pot, When I take the pot, clay automatically comes along with it. Can I say, give me only the pot, keep the clay with you? Can I say that to a pot maker? Or can I say to somebody, you keep the ornament, give me the gold? Or you give me the ornament, you keep the gold? No. When I hold an ornament, I'm holding gold. When I hold a pot, I'm holding clay. Grihyamane ghate. Grihyamane. When I take or grasp or hold a pot, okay? Yadvan mrittika bhati vai balat. It is the clay that I touch. Balat. It is the clay that I touch. Correct? I don't touch the pot. The pot is only a concept in my mind. But what am I touching? I'm touching the clay. Vrittika vai bhati balat. Automatically. Without any effort, without any choice, what I am holding is nothing but clay. Vikshamane prapanchepi. So, when I look at the world, when I experience the world, Vikshamane prapanchepi, Brahmaiva abhati bhasuram. It is this bhasura, that means this shining Atma alone shines. That's all. This Atma alone shines there. When I see anything, it is Atma with a name and form. When I grasp anything in the world, it's Atma with a name and form. The example of mud and gold and all are mere examples to show Karanam Karyam. Just like mud is the Karanam of only the world of clay objects, but Atman is the very Karanam of the entire Jagat. So when I am perceiving the Jagat, it is nothing but Brahman. Balat bhati. But I don't see it because the name and form is so, it distracts my attention. At least in the pot and clay, the clay is visible to me. In the Jagat, the Brahman is absolutely so sukshma, though it is pervading the whole Jagat. When I'm transacting with the Jagat, I feel I'm transacting only with the name and form. That Adhishtanam of this Jagat, the Atma or Brahman, is something which I am not able to perceive. That is why I feel that there is no Brahman. And Bhagwan Shankaracharya and the Upanishads have to come and tell me, look, you're not seeing it, you're not perceiving it, but what you are really perceiving is nothing but this Brahman. So Vikshamane prapanche api brahmaiva abhati bhasuram. This shining light of consciousness alone shines as the entire universe, nothing else. Then, next in the 68th verse, we'll see Sadaivatma Vishuddhopi Hi Ashuddho Bhati Vai Sada Yathaiva Dvividha Rajjuhu Jnanino Nishi. So he says that Sadaiva Atma Vishuddha api Ashuddho Bhati Sarvada. Okay. This Atma, which is the pure light of consciousness, Bhasura, Bhasuram Brahmaiva Abhati. This light of consciousness which is ever pure, Vishuddhopi, even though it is absolutely clear, clean, shining light of consciousness, without any kind of lepa, without any kind of impurity, it is as though it is Ashuddha. We feel the matter which looks dirty. I say that this is dirty. This place is dirty. What is this place? Nothing but Brahman. Correct? This pot is dirty. This clay is dirty. Vishuddha Atma, because of its incidental association with matter principle, looks as though it is dirtied by that kalmasha is there. Nishkalmasha Atma appears as if it is full of impurities. Yathaiva dvividha rajjuhu jnaninaha ajnanino nishihi. Just like for an ajnani, the one who does not know the rajju, it may appear in different forms. It may appear to have impurities like snake or this or that or whatever it is. Similarly, Satyeva Atma. Sadaiva Atma means what? Satyeva Atma. Okay. Satyeva Atma appears to be Ashuddha for an ignorant person. But an jnani knows that this Sat Atma, Bhasura Atma cannot be sullied by anything. Isn't it? Yathaiva dvividha rajju jnanino ajnanino nishihi. Just like two people, one jnani and ajnani, the jnani sees the rope as rope. The ajnani sees the rope as snake. So the same snake is perceived as two things, different things by two different people. A jnani always sees the rope as rope. Jnani means what? When you see the rope in full light. Whereas a person who sees this rope in partial light mistakes it for something else. So the person who has a clarity of vision takes the rope as something, the rope itself. A person without the clarity takes the rope as something else. Similarly, a jnani understands that the Atma is Shuddha Sat Yeva, Shuddha Chit Yeva. But an Ajnani sees this Atma being sullied by the matter principle. So, do you remember in Manisha Panchakam, where the sadhu, the parivrajaka, tells this Chandala, Gacha, Gacha. He sees this body of this Chandala, which is dirty, and he says, You are dirty, you move away from me, from my path. So, what is the meaning of it? Shuddha Atma. Okay? The same Shuddha Atma in me is the same Shuddha Atma even in a begging person on the street who looks dirty. But the Atma is crystal clear. But for a knower of Atma, for a Jnani, whatever may be the superficial experience, whatever may be the perception superficially, he does not take it as you are dirty. No, Atma, you or I am not dirty. It is the matter incidentally associated which gets dirty. Therefore, this Sad Atma, the one who sees the Sad Atma in the Jagat, the Jnani, understands that this Atma is ever pure. What is impure is the name and form. And this Atma cannot be, made dirty by anything else in the world of names and forms. Just like a jnani perceives the rope as rope, and an ajnani perceives the rope as something else. Yataiva dvividha rajjuhu jnanina ajnanino nishi. Like how a jnani perceives, how an ajnani perceives, it is different. It is only a change in the vision, that's all. The world remains the same. Atma is there everywhere. Nothing changes, only my vision changes. As a jnani, if I am a jnani, I see everything as Atma. and I see the world, but I do not get the impression that this whole thing is dirty. No, I see the whole world as Atma. And whatever is the changing, clean thing or dirty thing or whatever it is, bearable, unbearable, it belongs to the matter principle, Jagat, name and form, nothing else. So it is a difference or a change in the vision of a jnani and a jnani. A jnani sees only pure Atma, Brahman, Sat Rupa Atma, Chitrupa Atmanam Eva Pashyati, Jnani. Where in the world? Whereas an Ajnani sees what? Ever changing, disturbing, unclean Jagat he sees. He does not see the Atma which is ever fresh and ever clean. Okay. Now we'll just read the next verse, see how much we can discuss. Then we'll go to the next session for the next. यथैव मृण्मयः कुम्भः तद्वद्देहोऽपि चिन्मयः आत्मानात्मविभागोऽयं मुधैव क्रियते बुधैः. Here, it's very funny. He says, Shankaracharya, now after having talked about Atma Anatma Viveka in the early part of this book, now Acharya himself is saying, what is the need to divide the world into Atma and Anatma? Tell me. When Anatma is not existing at all, whatever is there is only Atma. Why should you divide everything into Atma and Anatma? This Deha is nothing but Atma, correct? Then why do you divide it into Atma and Anatma? If Deha is a mere appearance, if this Deha is the Anatma, and whatever is here is only Atman, if there is really no reality to this Deha, why should the scholars talk about Atma and Anatma? What is the need? If there is only one thing, why talk about two things and negate the other thing? You see the depth into which the text moves. Initially, it is necessary for us, yes, because we are constantly seeing two. I constantly see Atma and Anatma. I see I and other. Aham and idam, aham and idam, aham and idam all the time. So initially, one has to say, okay, right now there is aham and idam, but are they really two things? There are no two things. When do I accept that there are really two things? There is nothing called anatma at all. There is only atma. That's what he's saying here. Difficult to understand, isn't it? So what he says is, yathaiva mrinmayaha kumbhaha. The kumbha is nothing but, kumbha means the pot, is nothing but clay. That means there is no kumbha at all. There is only clay. Tadvad dehopi chinmayaha. This deha is nothing but chinmayaha. Then where is the question of deha? Where is the deha? When the pot is only the clay, this body is only the atma, then where is the question of deha? Atma anatma vibhagoyam mudhaiva kriyate budhaihi. The scholars are merely creating a confusion by saying atma and anatma. So say scholars are saying that. But no, it is necessary for us. Maybe now, after going through this whole thing, we may say, no, it is not true. But then, till we understand this, we do see things as two, and we have to accommodate for two things that we are perceiving. We'll discuss next session. नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत्